Anyway, we can. This is D2 has become the top cleaner. It's been for gravestones. In most situations, what we're going to be cleaning here is biological growth, which are microorganisms. So we're talking algae, lichen, moss, fungus, molds. Primarily, lichens are going to be raised on the surface, and there's going to be mold that gets into under the stone. Whether it's stone or cast. This is actually not stone, but it's an artificial stone in essence. But what occurs is that stone and cement and concrete products are all porous, and so that things get under the surface. And so no matter how much we brush the surface, we don't get them clean immediately. And so this product is going to actually percolate and get under the surface, okay? So it's going to work best undiluted. I have quarts like this. It's the same exact product in the gallons, okay? And also, I poured some of that gallon into this yellow container here, and that one is a different color, so it's obvious, because these are going to be used to rinse also. Now we can, this is a new sprayer, so I have to turn the little nozzle to get it to start coming out. And we can, and all these kind of squeeze trigger sprayers are going to go on a mist or a stream, depending. And then there's like off, mist, off. See, there's the stream. Okay, so we can just apply it like this. We want to obviously, if the wind is, you know, we can see which way the wind's going like that. The wind's going that way, so we're better on this side. Okay, and we can just apply it like this. Now we can also use this, and just a heads up, when you're using pump sprayers, not other than squeeze trigger, when we're using pump sprayers, whether they be handheld or larger, we never want to fill it up to the very top because we need room for air to build up to push it, okay? And what'll happen is if you take a sprayer like this that's brand new and you fill it right up to the top and you start pumping it, generally you'll wreck the sprayer because there'll be no place for the air to build up, and then instead it'll push the water into the mechanism and it'll wreck the sprayer. All right, so we're gonna come into here and we can just spray this from the top down. We don't have to pre-wet the stone. It is not necessary with this cleaner. There's only about 2% active. The cleaning action in D2 is based on something called quats, to abbreviate, which are quaternary ammoniums, okay? And not ammonia. It's not the same thing. It's in chemistry, they're called quaternary ammoniums. So all we want to do is wet the stone, okay? Now we can also do this and walk away. We do not have to rinse the stone, okay? It will self-clean, however, it'll take a long time. And usually in a workshop, or if you're trying to clean your, you know, ancestor stones, you want quicker results. And also, one application is not always enough, but it will not be harmful to apply the product because it's designed to be able to get under the pores. Now, most other cleaners are not like that. And we're not going to use an acid-based cleaner, but many cleaners are acid-based. And when you're using those, you never want them to get under the surface. We're not using them. It's not related to it. You don't want to put acids on marble or concrete because it dissolves it. If it's a granite monument, you can use an acid-based cleaner, but we're not going to, and I'm not saying I'm recommending that, but that's what's usually done in modern times in architecture as well. So I'm just applying this now, getting a coat on. You can see it's just sucking it right in. Now, we could leave this on here for 10 minutes, or we could leave it on till tomorrow, and we can come back and brush and rinse still. It will reactivate it unless we got some incredibly heavy rain overnight. So we could actually spray it today and come back and then just mist it down tomorrow, and it'll immediately like reactivate it. So the cleaner is going to work in wax and wane, and what's going to happen is it's going to dry up and it's going to be inactive. The cells will stop communicating, but every time it gets water, it'll reactivate it and start working again. So it'll wax and wane, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to do a typical brush and rinse method. Okay, so I'll just go to a little handheld sprayer first, and we just pump these up. And so these are handy, and these also are going to vary between a mist and a stream, okay? And we'll talk about brushes a little. And I got a couple different style brushes. And first I'll come in and talk about scrapers. Okay, so if we have raised lichen like this on a stable stone, we can take that off quickly with a scraper. A plastic scraper we desire is soft plastic, so it's flexible, okay? And these are disposable, they wear away quickly, okay? They're sacrificial, so the scraper will wear away and disappear. The plastic wears away, and that protects the stone. We don't want to use a metal tool on this. We're not going to use any wire brushes. So, but now we can just come in, and it's not going to work that well on this because this is cast, so it's a very rough surface. And on a smoother gravestone, it could really scrape a lot off quickly. And we don't have to use scrapers, and they're not always necessary, and sometimes they do nothing, but sometimes they save a lot of time and keep the brushes clean. Okay, so that's it. And so it's not working that well here because this is rough. Okay, so we'll get into brushes now.
John, before you even wet it, would you recommend using like a brush to get the big chunks off? Or just go straight?
I recommend not ever dry brushing something because you're going to breathe the stuff. If you want to pre-wet it with water and then you want to pre-clean it, you could, but it's going to take more time. And then also, if it's soaking wet and you put the cleaner on, it won't absorb as much. But it all depends on the situation. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll just take more time. There's going to be a couple different types. Brushes come in many shapes and sizes, okay? But there's not going to be that many different fibers that make the brushes up. Most brushes today are synthetic, okay? The vast majority of brushes that you're going to see at a home center or hardware store are going to have synthetic bristles, whether they be nylon or polypropylene or some synthetic. The vast majority of them are made overseas in China or some other country. Okay, the brushes that we sell are made in Texas by Magnolia Brush. They're an excellent company. They still actually make their brushes in their factory in Texas. Okay, now I'm going to start with this fiber right here, and this brush is a handheld brush with the same fiber. This is called Tempico, which is a natural fiber. Okay, it's soft, and when it gets wet, it gets softer. So it's an excellent fiber for brushes. This is a 12-inch, called a fender brush, and this is an 8-inch fender brush with a plastic handle. This is a wood handle, but this is a synthetic fiber, but it's a softer synthetic. This is okay also, but this is softer and more friendly to the stones, okay? So I'm gonna start with this brush, and I'm gonna just pre-wet it a little, okay? And then I'm just gonna put a little more water on here. And then we could use like a dip in a bucket method, you know, for cleaning. But usually what I'm gonna do is just like this and just let the water keep flowing. Now we're getting the sudsing action. That is from surfactants, which are basically like soaps that are within the D2 cleaner. Okay, that's going to affect the efficacy as well, but what's actually going to kill off the growth is the quaternary ammonium. They can't say it kills anything because then it would have to be regulated by the EPA and you couldn't ship it through the mail, and it would be, so instead they do a little dance and they say it removes staining caused by it. But it actually kills the growth, but they can't say that because then it has to be, you know, I'm going to get in trouble now from the EPA. Okay, so
just does it matter if you start from the bottom or start from the top?
It makes no difference when you're cleaning with D2 where you start because you can always spray more on. So there's a lot of knowledge that comes from other subjects that's misconstrued. Okay, most architectural cleaning, first of all, building is big. Second of all, you're usually using a restoration cleaner. D2 is used on buildings also, but the knowledge is coming from using an acid-based solution, which would be typically like a restoration cleaner. And if you're using an acid-based solution, you want to pre-wet the surface, and we're not recommending that. But if you are, unlike on a building, you want to pre-wet the surface with water because you don't want that acid to get under the surface. The reason they talk about cleaning from the bottom up is because the fear is if you start at the top and you start cleaning, the runoff from the cleaning could etch into the stone below. This is exclusively a problem with acid-based cleaners. If you're cleaning with D2, worst case scenario, you spray a little more on, okay? So it's never harmful to the stone. So D2 is also safe to use on other surfaces. Like, it works really good on like canopies, like, that cover, like a roof or a boat. It works really well on vinyl. So if you put it on a structure, you can use it, without having to worry about it affecting different parts of the building. We can see some of this is really pretty deeply rooted, and I didn't brush really hard. Now this, this is a synthetic brush that's going to be a little more aggressive. And you can hear the pitch, the different sound. I'm not pushing hard, and as long as it's wet, it's not harmful, but so a couple of the differences, this is going to absorb a lot of water or cleaner and get softer. This is not going to absorb anything, okay? And it's not going to get softer. The water will act as a lubricant, but this won't get softer. The downside to this is it's harder to clean and takes forever to dry when you're done using it. But overall, it's probably a better brush for most cleaning.
What type of fibers did you say those were?
It's called Tampico, which is a natural fiber, and I like to say that it's made from a few different sources, been used for brushes for hundreds of years. In modern times, much of it is coming from agave, so it's a wonderful thing because we have the best tequila and the best brushes from the same plant. So now this is a nylon brush that's much more aggressive, and generally you'd be going in limited areas. You can see how this stuff is pretty well attached though. And what'll happen is, because we treated it already, the tentacles will release, and we could certainly, get it to come off, but it's not just falling off easily. It's really attached itself aggressively is what I'm saying. And we could come back like this and go a little more. And now we can also use a bigger sprayer, obviously. Now this one is a bit more modern invention. This actually comes it comes in a different way. This sprayer actually comes with a regular hand pump. And I have a brand new one that is in my vehicle that I didn't even put together. But anyway, this is a lithium-ion battery replacement head, and so then you don't have to pump. Okay, this one's getting a little tired. It's a little, but these have at least a 1-year warranty on them. All these sprayers, well, except for the yellow one, are made by Fountainhead, and they've been making sprayers in upstate New York. So you got a bit more pressure this way. This has a regulator, so if it's working properly, it should maintain 24 psi, which is never a harmful pressure. Okay, so we can also adjust this, and so it's just going to be a lot easier and faster. And then we could be a little further away, and you can hear how it's going to come on and off. And obviously we can brush more. Now I'll say a few other things. We see a little bit of occurring. I didn't charge this. It's starting to go dead because it's flashing. But anyway, I have another one, and I have the hand pump. So sometimes we get a color change. Sometimes we get an immediate color change, and it's robust. And we've kind of come up with the term for that, calling it a blush, and the color will change to be like an orange, almost sometimes a bright red or yellow. And what that is it's a chemical reaction between the biological growth and the cleaner. And so it's similar to leaves on deciduous tree changing color before they fall off. It's a different actual mechanism through chemistry, but it's a similar phenomenon, so that you're going to get this color change. If you get a big color change, it's going to get cleaned quicker. It's a good thing. The warmer it is, the more color change you'll get. Stone or cast materials like this, they're going to maintain the temperature of the air for a long time. So this is pretty chilly from last night. But if it was in the sun and it was a warmer day, we would probably be getting a color change right now, much more significant. And as the day goes on, we'll probably see more of that. So we can, obviously this is not really, I just went over it quickly, and we can come back in. But I will say that this lichen is very tenaciously connected, and it's more so because it's a cast material. It has, it's more porous. so it's connected more aggressively. And we don't want to go at it too hard, and but it will come off over time. But we could clean one stone that this one doesn't really need it so much, but this is more of like a typical manufactured stone, and this would be a Tennessee limestone. And I could tell because of the color, Tennessee limestone tends to be a pink. And this, it's got some soiling, but it's not terrible. But just for the sake of it, since it's right next to, and we got another one here actually. This is much more needed here. This will be a better example. So any questions or about any of this?
Resting in a circular pattern, that's what you...
We're getting a bit of a color change on this quicker. And again, the warmer, the more so. It doesn't have to be circular, but you just don't want to go just like, if you only go one way, it won't get in the inscription as much. So yes, circular, semicircular, or as they would say, like random orbit, just all different directions would be, the most, would get in the most crevices that way.
Are the inscriptions usually where the moss and the lichen are anchored in the deepest?
I mean, sometimes, not necessarily. I mean, there's no polish on this at all. So if a stone is polished, then where it's inscribed, it's unpolished because it cuts through. And so a lot of time then it will attach itself to the unpolished area. A stone like this right here, not everyone can see, but this, when they made this, they polished the entire face on this. And then they remove the polish in these areas called panels, and those are unpolished. So in other words, this is polished, this is unpolished. So it'll tend to grow in the polished area. It will tend not to grow on the polished area. It will grow where on the unpolished area, the tentacles can attach. And so when I sprayed it, see how it's darker here? Immediately you see that. It can grow everywhere, but it's more likely and easier for it to attach itself to the unpolished area. So, and it's never harmful to just do that, but if we just give it a minute, we can come back and brush and rinse. And so we'll come over here, and this one, we are seeing a little more of a color change. And again, and another thing is you can't really even see all the staining, and like on the top, but not all of it is going to come off easily. And there's certain things off of trees like sap that are not just going to clean with this cleaner, because it doesn't work on everything. It works on things growing, which is biological growth, but it doesn't necessarily work on every possible thing that can stain a stone. All right, so we could try this over here now. This will probably be a better example. And okay, so we could have given this a little longer. We do see more of a color change occurring here, and this will work much better. This will be a better example now. And see, now I can show you how the scraper saves time here, because we're able to just scrape this heavy stuff right off. Okay? And we can come here and do the same, especially on the face. See, it takes the heavy stuff off. Okay? And then we could come in with the brush after. And this one is actually joined. Just double checking on that. I kind of just jumped right in. So this is going to clean up beautifully. And then there'll be residual cleaning. So there'll be delayed cleaning effects that occur for as long as months after we leave. In other words, however it looks right now, if it's not completely clean, it will tend to improve over the course of time. Any questions?
So you've applied the D2, then you've rinsed the D2, you've scrubbed. Would you go back after the rinsing and then apply a coating of D2 to do the sit and wait?
It's never harmful, but the only thing that, as a friend of mine says, the only thing it's harmful to is your wallet. If you're working at a bigger site, I would recommend one application and give it more time and see if you're happy with the results. If you're traveling to clean your ancestor stones and you drove some hours, or you're going to a site you're not going to be going to that often, you want to make sure it's a really good job and it's not that many stones. What I'd recommend is spend a little more time, do a good job, rinse it, let it mostly dry, then do a second application and leave. Okay, because then it'll have more long-term effect. It'll be almost sure that it's going to be really effective. But on a big site, usually one application is adequate because it's going to clean. It's going to do most of the cleaning, and so it just depends how much product you want to use.
So now, when you do the cleaning, do you recommend every so many years coming back to repeat it, or it's done?
I mean, yes and no. There's no answer to that because it depends on the site. It depends on the annual rainfall. It depends on the tree canopy. It depends on the geology of the stone. So it's variable. The growth will come back eventually. On a granite and a polished granite, it'll take a really long time. On a porous stone, it will come back more quickly. So, but yes, if you want to maintain it, if it's your family's, stones or whatever, and you want to really keep up on it, if you visit the graves periodically, as soon as you see any discoloration, then you could just do another application. And in that situation, it's not aggressive growth, it's not long term. You could do a diluted solution of the cleaner. In other words, take 1 cup and 1 cup of water, and so you'd be using half as much of the cleaner, and then that would be plenty of strength to just keep it clean. If it's just like what would usually happen, say it might take a year, it might take 3 or 4 years, and you'll see like a light kind of green cast coming back, but it's not aggressive, it's not like full-blown lichen. Then just 1 coat of lighter stuff, and you could lightly brush and rinse if you want. That will just take it out, and so then you could keep up on it a lot easier. It's like anything. If you do routine maintenance, it's like if you never clean your car and then you clean it like after 2 years, it's going to take a lot to get it clean. But if you clean it once every other week, it's not going to take much. It's going to clean up nicely. So it's kind of similar. It's never going to hurt to put another application on. If you go visit your grandparents' grave sites once a year, you could just spritz an application on when you're there, and then it'll never come back. So it's not harmful. Any other questions? So people could go ahead and do some cleaning, and we have plenty of supplies for that. We just want to make sure that the stones are stable before we start. It could even be a